The final text of the Clarity Act was just released, and let's just say there are some really interesting things included in it. The Republicans gave the Democrats everything they so-called wanted, but the Elizabeth Warren camp is still trying to crush the Clarity Act. Senator Lummis has been one of the loudest and most optimistic spokespersons for the Clarity Act. But listen to how her tone has shifted in today's eye-opening interview with Fox News. I'll dive into what's in the text. I'll dive into kind of the dilemma and where it stands currently. But first, Senator Lummis on Fox.
Let me get your take on that, because it seems like you're going to have to even make more concessions on the language around ethics to secure the Democrat support, right? Because, look, you had several Democrats yet last night voicing concerns about the updated text, particularly around the bill's enforcement mechanism. That places responsibility on the Attorney General. Is that the issue right now?
That is kind of a bright line. You know, we had worked until there was an impasse with Democrats earlier this month because they want state attorneys general to be able to sue elected officials that are subject to this ethics law. And so that would allow, for example, an attorney general from another state to sue me if they thought I violated the ethics law. So when I ran that by senators, they said, we don't want that. And so this ethics provision is not just applicable to the president and the vice president. It's applicable to every House member, every senator, and every federal judge. So we're trying to not plan legislation around one person who holds one office for the next 2 years, but rather over time that will serve the House, the Senate, the judiciary, and the executive branch in a fair way. The struggle is, of course, a lot of Democrats are absolutely focused on one person, and that's President Trump. So since President Trump actually agreed that he would have the choice to either put his assets in a blind trust or divest of his participation in digital assets and companies that derive revenue from digital assets, somehow that's not enough. I think it's going to be a struggle. Fortunately, Tom Tillis is working with Democrats to continue to try to find a way that they could support the ethics provisions in this bill. But it's hard for me to see it right now because they're so focused on getting a pound of flesh from President Trump.
I mean, do you think so?
So there's Senator Lummis's view on it. And I do agree with what Intra Belden said here. Lowell, Senator Lummis will be the reason it gets passed if it does. Totally agree. She's been putting the Herculean effort to get this passed, doing a lot of good work. But anyways, let's get into it here. So again, we've all been kind of waiting on what's going to actually the official text of the Clarity Act. It came in last night. It's 616 pages. There is this ethics provision, which from the Democrat camp, and again, not monolithic, but from, I guess, the Elizabeth Warren-led portion of the Democrat camp, which I would say is probably more of the popular perspective here. You know, she's been there for a while. She does have, for some reason, I really don't get it, but a lot of authority in the party. There is seemingly a civil war going on in the Democrat camp right now from I would say more of the status quo Democrats, the Obama leftovers, to now this whole Democratic Socialists of America camp, aka like the new New York Mayor Mondami led portion of the Democrats, and then of course what we all kind of would consider the legacy Democrats here. But anyways, the part that was the most contentious, which is of course the ethics portion, and we all know why this is the case. I think Senator Lummis kind of hit the nail on the head at the very end, that what we are seeing right now, the attack on the Clarity Act, is really just a way to, as Senator Lummis Lummis put it, a way to get a pound of flesh from President Trump. And so the whole idea of, oh, hey, look, parts of the Clarity Act we're okay with, but President Trump's in my past 2 minutes. Yes, President Trump's shitcoining is a big concern here, and we got to get these ethics provisions in, and we finally got that. And so the Senate Republicans pretty much gave the Democrats at least what they said they wanted up until this morning, everything they wanted, and now it seems like they are moving the goalposts. So before I get into the update this morning, here is the subcommittee for the digital assets on the U.S. Senate banking, the ethics requirement. Now, I might be a little cynical when I read this a little bit, but, that's not going to necessarily take away from the actual verbiage here, but I'll get into that in a little bit. So the top line, the ethics requirement, quote, no president in American history has voluntarily agreed to self-impose substantive ethics limits like President Trump has. Senator Cynthia Lummis, Digital Asset Market Clarity Act bans all federal officials, including the President of the United States, from issuing or sponsoring a digital asset for consideration backed by real enforcement and real penalties. Clean government and pro-innovation policy are not opposites, and this bill proves it. So here are the key ethics provisions included, which is it prohibits any, quote, covered individuals defined as any public official or employee and their spouses from issuing or sponsoring a digital asset in exchange for consideration, including the President of the United States, the Vice President, members of Congress, and federal judges. So the president can't create a shitcoin. His wife can't create a shitcoin. And then, of course, the vice president, members of Congress, and, of course, federal judges can also participate in any form of meme coins, as it was put. Going further, it directs the attorney general to bring civil enforcement actions against any covered individual who knowingly and willfully violates the ban, and against any digital asset intermediary that knowingly lists a violating token. Now, when we got the Clarity Act at first, the person that would bring the enforcement, or rather the body that would bring the enforcement, it was originally outlined to be under the Department of Justice, the DOJ. And the Democrats came out and they're like, no, we don't want the DOJ to be the ones prosecuting, because under the Trump administration, the DOJ is going to do what the president wants to do. And they said they wanted it under the attorney general. And they're like, okay, here, we gave you that. Fine. The attorney general can bring the enforcement. Now it's evolved to, wait, no, actually, we want the state attorney generals to do this, not the federal attorney general, but on the state level. And as Senator Lummis kind of explained, she's like, that's not going to work out, because any state attorney general could just bring bring a case against someone not in their state, and that's just going to muddy up the waters. So the Republicans, conceded on that point, and they moved it from the DOJ to the attorney general. Now, going further, quote, a digital asset intermediary that knowingly lists a token issued or sponsored in violation of the ban faces a civil penalty of up to $250,000 per violation per day. Covered individuals who violate the ban must disgorge all profits and pay a penalty equal to 10% of the consideration received, or $500,000. The ban further covers public officials and employees and their spouses government-wide, including the president, members of Congress, and judges, applying one clean government standard from the top down and not a carve-out for anyone, which you would think is something that the Democrats could stand behind, because again, it's a blanket ban here. But as we know, they want to very, very strictly attack President Trump. A lot of the stuff we're seeing right now is, hey, Trump's a bad guy. He's a scammer. Let's make this new law here very punitive for President Trump. It really is, and I'll get into this a little more, but it really is looking like it's not this concern about customer protection. It's just like, how can we put this law in place so that we can punish Trump? Whether you like him or not, that's kind of the angle that you're seeing play out right now. Going further, officials with a pre-existing interest in a previously issued or sponsored digital asset come into compliance through a qualified blind trust or divestment under established ethics procedures and are not held liable for the unauthorized acts of third parties they did not direct or coordinate with, which Senator Lummis kind of hit on. Updates federal ethics reporting law so digital assets sold for Oh, wow, I couldn't say this morning either. Remuneration and worth more than $1,000 must be disclosed, closing a gap in current requirements. Going further, the ethics provisions take effect on the earlier of 360 days after enactment or 60 days after the final implementing rule, and requires a GAO report within 360 days recommending how to keep ethics laws current as digital asset rules develop. This part is kind of interesting, and this was probably my surprise to see this, but the ban sunsets on January 2029, underscoring that this is a standard President Trump chose to hold himself to, not one Congress imposed on him. So I don't know. It sounds like this ethics provision is only going to be there until 2029. Again, I'm not a politician. I'm not a lawyer here, but my layman read of this, my, very just average person read of this is like, okay, so this is just going into, stop Trump from profiting more. But what about like the next president? And further, down the line, you would think that this would just like be the way that things work, that presidents can't create shit coins. But hey, who am I to say anything? I'm a cult member, right? And then wrapping up, nothing in the ethics provision limits existing conflict of interest laws, anti-fraud authority under the Commodity Exchange Act and Securities Exchange Act, campaign finance law, or constitutional rights, including the First Amendment and speech or debate clause. Now, this bottom line one, this is probably where I get a little cynical. All right, guys, if I had the tinfoil hat on, I'd probably put it on here. But, quote, this bill applies one ethics standards to everyone, including the President of the United States, and backed it up with real enforcement, real penalties, and a Department of Justice mandate to act. This is not talk. It is a president writing enforceable ethics rule into law and signing them himself. Digital asset innovation and clean government can go hand in hand, and the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act proves it. When I was reading this morning, I was chatting with Luke, and we read this, and his first take was like, I don't know, it sounds a little dystopian to me. And me, of course, being more of a cynical jester, I would say, I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Trump already made out with $1.4 billion, or let's just go round $1 billion. And now he's like, hey, look, dude, I won't do it again. I already got my bag. I already got $1 billion. I'm good. We can write these laws into place. Doesn't matter. So, me being cynical here, that was kind of my initial thought when I read that. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, yeah, they sound good in a vacuum. But after the Trump coin and the Melania coin and the World Liberty Finance profits, it's like you already made your $1 billion. So, like, I guess cool. Like, all right, cool, bro. But this is the main point here. And as I've been saying on the show, basically since the Trump coin came out, or rather a couple of weeks ago when we finally got the official tally of how much President Trump did profit off of his meme coins and his, quote, crypto investments, I kept saying, I'm like, dude, this is not helping our case at all. Like, this is going to be the single thing that is going to be used to stop Bitcoin moving further, or any regulations to happen, any positive regulations to happen. I'm not the biggest fan of regulations personally, but any positive that could have come out from the Trump administration, the $1 billion number of profits that the Trump and Trump family or Trump corporations made, that's going to be the main sticking point. And lo and behold, what did we see this morning? Elizabeth Warren jumped on social media and she made her case pretty clear. She goes, the new draft of the Senate GOP crypto bill does nothing to stop President Trump from making his next $1.4 billion from crypto. It'll supercharge Trump's crypto corruption. This bill should be DOA. I might push back a little bit on that, because, again, it's like he already made the $1 billion, and this ethics provisions, from my read of it, would stop him from making another $1 billion from it. So, look, I don't really know what she's talking about here, but this is their stance. So let me play that clip for you guys. We got Elizabeth Warren out here calling us all kinds of bad names, but let's listen to her view.
1.4 billion. That's what Donald Trump made off cryptocurrency last year alone, while working Americans are struggling to afford groceries and rent. Senate Republicans just released their updated version of the Clarity Act, a bill meant to regulate crypto, and it's going to a vote on the floor. That's a glaring omission. It does not stop Donald Trump from cashing in on his presidency. A new poll found Trump's crypto earnings are deeply unpopular with Americans. And let's be clear, this is our best chance to rein in President Trump's crypto corruption. If that's not bad enough, this latest draft bill would make it easier for criminals, and cartels and terrorists to move money and finance their operations. And it fails to protect investors in our financial system. Look, this isn't regulation. This is a giveaway. This bill should be dead on arrival.
God, she's so annoying. Sorry. She's my favorite politician. My favorite politician because she hates Bitcoin so much, and at least she's transparent on her hate. And I gotta admire that. Anyways, everything she said, I mean, minus the $1.4 billion profits angle of that, Senator Lummis has completely destroyed. Like that's just all fake news, basically. Like it in fact makes it harder for criminals and money laundering. That's basically what the bill is about. And of course, consumer protections, like that's literally what the whole bill is about. I saw someone tweet this morning, I forget who it was, but basically with the Clarity Act, if we had the Clarity Act when FTX and Celsius blew up, like we would be in a totally different game. And it does in fact protect consumers if something of that nature happens again. So like the meat of that clip is completely not true. But again, the $1.4 billion number, it's a big number. I don't think we're going to be able to really escape that. That's going to be what they're hammering in throughout this whole time. I did like one meme in there, though. It was a good, alliteration, the crypto corruption. I'm like, damn, she did it again. She did it again. It's way better than the anti-crypto army. That one was trash. But the President Trump's crypto corruption, it's like, it does kind of roll off the tongue, guys. I'm not going to lie. It do be rolling off the tongue. I'm like, dang. The staff writers did a good job on that one. I can't really fight that. But that's what this whole is. And actually, that's what this whole thing is about. Interesting enough. So we got that clip this morning from Elizabeth Warren. And Senator Lummis did preemptively tweet something last night that I think really puts everything in the light that you probably should be looking at this through, and it is simply this. And hey, guys, for the OGs in the chat that remember Optigate, dude, we're back. This isn't me saying it. This is a sitting senator of the United States saying it. Here's Senator Cynthia Lummis, and she goes, TDS is not a reason to oppose common sense policies. Democrats have abandoned the voters over irrational hatred of one person. Again, it's not me saying it. This is a senator. Yes, Senator Lummis is Republican. But that's really what this is starting to look like. That seems like what this whole fight is around the Clarity Act right now, is that there's no consideration on the long-term effects of the Clarity Act or the long-term effects of common sense regulation of Bitcoin for America. It really is all dependent on this idea of, can we hurt Trump through this law? And if it doesn't hurt Trump enough, then they're really going to continue to fight the Clarity Act. Senator Elizabeth Warren is putting her entire weight behind this idea that she will try to crush the Clarity Act because it doesn't hurt Trump enough. And I see the logic in her narrative here, because there are a lot of people that don't like Trump. There are a lot of people that pretty much their entire policy and ideology is just do the opposite of what Trump wants. And that's why there's a lot of inconsistencies. It's like Trump does one thing and it's like, hey, my politics is just do the complete opposite of what he wants to do. And that's coming from someone that's not the biggest Trump fan. I think, he's hilarious and like the man has aura, but as a president, I don't think he's really been that good personally. And I do, again, kind of agree with the quote crypto corruption aspect of this. Like, I don't know, the numbers I'm seeing, it seems like the transparency of just robbing the coffers is on a whole nother level. And you know, you can say I'm falling for the Democrat propaganda, but I don't know, guys. I'm just trying to call, you know, balls and strikes here, okay? So that's where we currently stand with the fight on the Clarity Act. And there is still time to get this done. Again, the whole idea that we've been hearing last week and the prevailing weeks is that this was going to be the week that we would see a vote go through for the Clarity Act. Now I'm hearing and reading that it's not this week, that next week it's probably going to be the case. Like, are we surprised? It keeps happening the same way. It's like, oh, here we have a date. It was the 20th. They're going to go into deliberation. And look, at least this week we are deliberating over the Clarity Act. Now we're hearing that, oh, next week will probably be the week where we start really putting, you know, the tires on the road here. And then again, you have to remember that we basically have about 3 weeks left until until Congress goes on recess for about a month. And then when they come back in September, it's the midterms. So again, this is the final push. But even though it is starting to look bleak here, there was a Patrick Witt interview that I saw 2 days ago that I think really sums up this whole fight that we're seeing right now. So I'm going to play that for you guys. Actually, no, I'll just read kind of the meat of the interview, because there's about a minute in the beginning that it doesn't really matter. So anyways, the executive director of the Digital Assets Group, Patrick Witt, who was formerly I believe he was one of the attorneys of the first Trump administration. So he worked with Trump before. Now he's heading the Digital Asset Group. He basically said in this clip that the Democrat strategy, and this is a direct quote, the Democrat strategy throughout this has been to never agree to anything in advance. And then you see them ultimately cut their deals at the very end. So, oh, sorry, I didn't pull up. I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of kayfabe, if I said that correctly. That we're seeing the Elizabeth Warren camp, the Democrats over there that follow Elizabeth Warren's lead. They are making a big fight right now. They're making a lot of noise. They're making a big scuffle here. And even though the Republicans basically gave them everything they wanted for the ethics provisions, for them to sign off on the Clarity Act, now, as I said at the beginning of the show, it does seem like the goalposts are moving because it is not attacking Trump enough. But as Patrick Witt said, and it was interesting, he's like, look, I'm kind of new to this process, and this is the general theme that I've seen, is that the Democrats will wait to the very last minute to cut a deal. So even though we are getting towards, the last 21 days, wow, life is memes. Meme magic might happen. Even though we're getting into the last 21 days of this, there is still most likely a glimmer of hope that this will in fact go through. But as of now, again, as I've mentioned, I believe it was last week or last 2 weeks, it's like the desperation that we're seeing from Elizabeth Warren is at all-time high. I think maybe what we're seeing from Elizabeth Warren right now is there might be stuff going on behind the scenes that obviously I'm not privy to. I have no insight into this. I'm just kind of covering the news and talking head and giving you my opinion and speculations on the matter. I think what we're seeing from Elizabeth Warren is that there's probably more momentum for the Clarity Act passing. And we actually got a huge headline from Politico this morning, or was it yesterday? This morning, yeah. Goldman Sachs CEO, David Solomon of Goldman Sachs, obviously one of the big Wall Street behemoths, coming out on the Politico this morning, says it's time to advance the crypto bill. Quote, I'm very supportive of moving the Crypto Act forward so we can get some market structure in place, even though other bankers disagree. In particular, obviously, Jamie Dimon has been one of the big proponents against the Clarity Act, though recently he did kind of come out and like soft capitulate on the Clarity Act. He's like, look, I'm not really against the Clarity Act. It just needs to have the right, provisions in their ethics provisions, safety, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm kind of speculating here. I'm kind of guessing that there's probably more momentum for the Clarity Act passing right now than the headlines would make us believe. Hence why we're seeing Elizabeth Warren come out here so strongly against the Clarity Act. Obviously, anti-Bitcoin army leader, the crypto corruption meme. I think maybe what Patrick Witt is saying is probably closer to what is actually happening, that they're just putting up a last minute fight. And then, at the very last second of this possibly passing, or the last day, or, right when we get to the 2-minute warning, basically, to continue the Bitcoin Clarity Act is at the 1 yard line idea. At the 2-minute warning is when we'll probably get the Democrats to finally agree to the Clarity Act going through. That's kind of where my head is at right now. Personally, you guys know I've been talking about it for a while. I just want to see the Clarity Act either pass or fail so that we can kind of move on to the next story here, the next phase of this bull bear market, the next phase of this year. And then 2, obviously, can something happen? We're seeing a lot of talk. Now the rubber meets the road. Wait, I said tires meet the road. Now the rubber meets the road. And let's see it. Let's see if we can finally get more than just some good rhetoric, and we get some action, put in place here. Obviously, from what I've seen of the Clarity Act, and I haven't dove into all 660 pages. It was just released last night. Obviously, we've been kind of covering, and we've been seeing a lot of AI summaries of what it is. There's not too much in it for us Bitcoiners per se. It really is more of a blanket coverage of the whole digital asset space, which does involve shitcoins. So, I'm still standing by. I'd rather see no bill than a bad bill. But from people that have read it, or at least combed through it a lot more than I have. In particular, I really like Alex Thorne, and I kind of trust his judgment. He goes, Clarity Act is a good bill. Hold on. Clarity Act is a good bill. The admin and many on Capitol Hill have worked very hard for years. It provides substantial new regulation and investor protections. It also encourages innovation and puts U.S. at the center of the digital assets capital markets. Pass it. As I've been saying, we've seen some interesting movement from other nations in regards to good Bitcoin regulations. In particular, Japan seems to be moving forward and having some good crypto regulations, Bitcoin regulations. It also looks like, I haven't covered it. Maybe I'll cover it in detail tomorrow, but it seems like Russia is also basically passed their own crypto regulations. Now, of course, is anyone going to, for lack of better terms, trust Russia and move their business to Russia? Probably not. But we're seeing that there is a race going on, not just in the U.S. to pass the Clarity Act, but there is a nation state game theory race happening right now where if you ain't first, you're last. Now, if Nico was here, he'd say something like El Salvador passed it already. And I'm like, yeah, cool story, bro. But $32 billion GDP, or I saw actually their GDP went up 5% or something. So it's still under $40 billion GDP. Yeah, they will always be first. But again, this idea of economic weight that's really been tossed around in a lot of different circles recently. I'm like, it's almost like, yeah, hey, my rich dad does this with his investments, but my niece invested her, $5 and she put it into the piggy bank. We should focus on what my niece is doing. That's kind of how I view this here. It's like, look, let's focus on what the world's financial superpower is doing, not El Salvador. And that's not to, talk smack on El Salvador. I think what they did was amazing. It was, you know, a world's first, but you got to watch what the economic weight of the world is doing. And that's what we're seeing with the Clarity Act. Now, to wrap this up, I did see a good tweet about this from, I really don't know who this guy is. AI. Oh, it's an AI crypto insight. So, hey, look, for those that yell at me and say, oh, Opti hasn't fact checked anything with AI, here you go. All right. So Clarity Act update based on publicly available intel. There is 51 Republican yeses, 2 Republican noes. There is 2 Democrat yeses and 45 Democrat noes. Again, they need 60 votes for this to pass. And if these numbers stay as they are, then that's obviously under 60. This is currently 53. Now, this is not set in stone, but where things stand right now, they won't have the 60 votes that they need to pass the Clarity Act. Now, again, maybe that changes now that the ethics provisions are in. Oh, I didn't pull it up. Maybe that changes as we start to see conversations from one side, from the Republicans to the Democrats. Maybe there's some Democrats that are swayed by what they saw in the Clarity Act. So this week, I think it's very safe to say that we're at a stalemate. We're not going to see anything more on this. We're just going to see more arguments. Maybe the Republicans come back in before the end of the week, and they also, you know, concede more to the ethics provisions, more to the Clarity Act. But obviously, I highly doubt that the Republicans will write anything in the Clarity Act that will, as Senator Lummis said, get a pound of flesh from Donald Trump. Now, I'm still stuck on, you know, Trump. Like, yeah, look, I love Senator Lummis. I love all the work she's done. But this press release of, like, you know, Trump self-imposed these ethics requirements on himself, to me personally, it's like, yeah, that's after he made $1 billion. Like, dude, I would write my own rules in that stop me from making another billion if I already made $1 billion in the first place. It's like, yeah, I already made my bag. I don't need to make it. I don't need to do it twice. I made $1.5 billion. Like, what are we talking about? It's like, okay, all right. You know, look, I made $1.5 billion. I'll stop all of this, but as long as I don't have to give back that $1.5 billion, then I'm cool. It's fine. Like, yeah, these rules are great. Yes, I'm going to self-impose them until I'm out of office, but, like, hey, keep my $1.5 billion in my bank account. Like, you know, look, I know you guys are going to hate me for saying this, but that's why he's, like, the funniest dude ever. Like, that's why Trump has aura, bro. He's like, yeah, so what? I made $1.5 billion. And now I'm going to write rules in that's going to stop me from making another $1 billion. But, like, so what? I already made it. Like, do something about it. I'm like, damn, kind of did it again. Yo, it's like, remember, I was actually having a conversation last night with my bro Wine, and we were just shooting shit. And one of our old friends, not our old friends, one of our friends that I don't know what he's been doing, but shouts out to Ben Kaufman. He used to run the Clown World Twitter account. And he was asking, Wine was asking me, he's like, yo, whatever happened to that Clown World Twitter account? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. He kind of like quit Twitter and he's doing like AI stuff. He's still a Bitcoiner, but I don't know what he's doing. You know, if you know where Ben Kaufman is, let me know. I have no idea what he's doing. But this is like some peak Clown World stuff. He's like, yeah, dude, I made $1.5 billion. Like, yeah, look, I won't do it again. God, it's so good. It's good in a, like, if you don't laugh about it, you'll cry about it kind of situation. And look, as we've been saying, and I think it's been very obvious, it's not like a spectacular prediction or insight here, is that Trump's meme coins, Trump's rug pulls are going to be not only one of the things that is going to be very hard to really fight against. It's like, what can you really say? Like, he made $1.5 billion from a rug pull. Like, yeah, he did that shit. There's no way to do mental gymnastics around that. It's like, yeah, that's kind of the situation. It is what it is. But further, That's going to be something that's going to be used to most likely, as we're seeing, stop the Clarity Act. But further, I think during the midterms, that's probably going to be one of the big concerns and one of the big talking points right now. Even though Trump's not running again, you're most likely going to see Democrats or even the media kind of do these hit piece questions and be like, well, where were you, you know, to JD Vance and Marco Rubio and whoever is running in the GOP that is still Trump affiliated. They're going to ask them, well, what about, you know, the crypto scams? Like, what's your view on that? Were you guilty in that scenario as well? And it doesn't help when you also have like Howard Lutnick making billions of dollars with Cantor Fitzgerald and some of the stuff that he's been doing that are a little less savory than most people would like to talk about. Like, it doesn't look good. It doesn't bode well for any of us here. Like I said it before, and I'll probably continue to say it, but first Bitcoin president, as of now, where it stands, kind of is a net negative. Again, if we don't get anything out of this administration except for, you know, policy by press release, it's like this is going to be one of the biggest fumbles that we've seen in a while. You go out there, say, hey, we're going to embrace Bitcoin. You literally do a bunch of shitcoin rug pulls. Nothing gets put into law. The next president comes in, pulls the executive order for the strategic Bitcoin reserve, further comes in and starts attacking the Bitcoin industry. It's not going to bode well. But we do have the CFTC and the SEC. They are doing that joint memorandum. Again, maybe all the clarity we're going to get is just because the CFTC and the SEC are a lot more Bitcoin friendly, or rather, at least not doing what do they always call it? Regulation by enforcement. So it's not all bad, but again, I think we're using the 1 yard line kind of meme here. I don't know where we are. Maybe this is like second down. It feels more like a third down. Maybe we're at third down, 3rd and 1 on the goal line. Last push. And then, dude, if you know football, they might have to go for it on 4th here. All right. So that's where we stand. It seems to be stalled, even though the Democrats got everything they wanted. They're still fighting it. So we'll see what happens here. Personally, I'm like, it's probably not going to pass, but I'm going to defer to what Patrick Witt said. Last minute, the Dems will come to the table and they'll cut a deal. So that's probably the best we can hope for in this situation. Anyways, keeping it moving. First break. What do I got on today's show? Oh, yeah. Numbers, I'm going to do a little different stuff. We just saw one of the OG exchanges, one of the OG degen trading websites finally close up their doors after 11 years. So I'm sneaking that in on the show. And then we also got a new Bitcoin consortium from Big Bitcoin TM. Shouts out to the Bugle. They wanted me to mention Big Bitcoin. So we got a Bitcoin consortium from Big Bitcoin to fund Bitcoin development. And then in the culture, dude, we got another Bitcoin treasury company selling Bitcoin. Is this not the bottom? It's got to be the bottom, right? All right. Anyways, first commercial break. I'll be right back. Here's the part that nobody says out loud. Buying Bitcoin on an exchange and leaving it there isn't buying Bitcoin. It's buying an IOU. And the last decade has been a masterclass in what happens when those exchanges don't deliver on their promises.
Bitcoin Well is a self-custody Bitcoin platform. That means that when you buy Bitcoin, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet. You actually own it from the very first transaction. They're available both in the United States and Canada. Pricing is transparent, straightforward, and no nonsense. And if you're buying a larger amount of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Well Infinite gives you concierge-level support through a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, premium help for when it actually matters.
You can also stack a little extra through the referral and wishing well rewards. A nice bonus on top of the owning your own Bitcoin thing. So go to bitcoinwell.com/simply and sign up for the Bitcoin Well portal today and buy Bitcoin you actually own. Paper burns. paper floods, paper fades. If your seed phrase is written on paper, it's not really backed up. It's waiting to disappear. Stampseed's DIY kit lets you hammer your seed words directly into commercial grade titanium. Fireproof, crush-proof, waterproof, and permanent. Once your words are in the metal, they aren't going anywhere. Use code SIMPLY at stampseed.com for 15% off anything in the store. That's stampseed.com, code SIMPLY. All right, guys, before I get to the numbers, paid spot by our boys over at Rumble Wallet. Again, guys, they're still giving you $10 to try the wallet. So go to wallet.rumble.com, use the promo code SIMPLY10, and they're giving you free money. You got to love it, okay? You guys know what we're about. We love the Rumble platform. We are huge fans of freedom of speech. And, of course, we are Bitcoiners, and we love the freedom to transact. And no one can stop us because this wallet is non-custodial. It connects with your Rumble wallet. You can pay, send, what do they call it over there? Super chats. I forget what they call them on Rumble. Super chats to your favorite content creators. Super easy to use, super slick, very convenient and fast to download. So go to wallet.rumble.com, use the promo code SIMPLY10, and they will give you $10 government coupons. They're not giving you cash, okay? They're not giving you cash, but they're giving you free money to try the wallet. So go try it. Everyone needs a phone wallet, I think, to transact. Remember, we are about using Bitcoin, not just hodling Bitcoin. If you want people to use Bitcoin, then we should be sending some Bitcoin. We should be using the Bitcoin. We should be using the Bitcoin and not just hoarding the Bitcoins. No, we're hodl maxis. We love hodling, but we also use Bitcoin, okay? Anyways, the current Bitcoin price is $64,830, which is a 48.6% discount from all-time high. The market cap is back to $1.3 trillion. The current block height is 959,288. All right, so again, usually I play a video, but this is like technically loosely the numbers section, and there is a number attached, okay? So Bitmex, if you know of Bitmex, if you are a OG degenerate Bitcoin trader, then you've probably lost generational wealth on Bitmex. They're finally shutting down, which is kind of crazy. So let me just read the Bitmex post here. And then, it's like an end of an era. I had a demo trading account on Bitmex, okay? In my early days, I had a demo. I had the demo Bitmex trading account. So I wasn't really trading, but you do the demo account. You're like, I'm the best trader ever. You do like 100x leverage, short or long or whatever. You rack up all the points. I've never done this. Hold on. I'll tell you a little story. I've never done this. But this is like this was what I used to hear all the time, is that like when I first got into Bitcoin, 2017, this is probably around like the 2018 bear market era, where everyone we're all like, we were still kind of degenerate shitcoiners. We were still kind of chasing for the 100x gains, and it was like a running meme that you go on Bitmex, you do a 100x leverage long on Bitmex, you rack it up, one trade, generational wealth, right? Well, the underlying joke was that you'd go to Bitmex, and at the time you could still use it in the US, and then they got in trouble with sanctions and AML, money laundering laws, and then it became, if you're in the US, you couldn't use it in the US. I was thinking Binance, but everyone would just like, you do a VPN. I never actually traded on the platform, but you get a VPN, you sign up to Bitmex, and you would do a demo account, which is basically just like use the platform, but not actually put money up. And you would make trades, and your demo account would like, you would just rack it in, dude. Like you would just make money on the demo account. And you're like, oh, I'm the greatest trader ever. Like, dude, this is so easy. I just 100x long. Look how much Bitcoin I would have made if I actually put up some real money into Bitmex. And then you go into the official trading account and you just get wiped out. You just get completely wrecked. So I don't know what they were doing over there. I am not saying there was anything nefarious going on the back end, but that was a trend and that was a running meme that you would trade on the demo account and you would make a bunch of money. And then you go to the official platform. It wouldn't be as easy. But I never traded there. Okay. I've never actually traded. I at the time I didn't understand leverage. I was like 100x long. I don't get what's going on here. Anyways, enough story time. Here's the official tweet from Bitmex. Dear Bitmex users, today we share with a very heavy heart that Bitmex Exchange will shut down its operations effective September 23rd, 2026 at 4 UTC. The owner and operator of Bitmex, HDR Global Trading Limited, has made the difficult decision to close operations following a strategic reveal of the business. It may not look the same today, but we are proud of our 11-plus year legacy and the role we played in shaping the crypto industry. We invented the 100x leverage perpetual swap, which for most of you was the first step to your crypto trading journey. It is now the most traded financial product in the crypto industry, adopted by thousands of users and exchanges. And we remain proud of our robust security infrastructure, which has allowed us to maintain a flawless track record of zero customer funds lost to hacks in our entire operating history. We want to reassure you that your assets remain fully safe and under your control during this transition period. This announcement is just to give enough time to ensure a smooth withdrawal process for everyone. From today, we strongly encourage all users to close their positions and withdraw their funds as soon as convenient. For more details, go to the full blog. But Bitmex was once home to some of the greatest traders today. Our team has dedicated tremendous effort and passion into building the platform into what it is. And we're glad to have reached some of you during your time with us. To everyone who has traded, supported, and grown alongside us, thank you for your trust over the last 11 years, the Bitmex team. Honestly, guys, it's an end of an era. There's other places now that you can do 100x leverage trades on, but Bitmex, dude, it's almost like bittersweet. I saw a really good tweet and it was like, they quote tweeted this and they said something like, end of an era. To those of us that have traded and lost generational wealth and who have made generational wealth from Bitmex, it is a sign of the times of things changing. Like I think actually, I'm thinking about this now. I think maybe the big takeaway from this, considering that the beginning of the show was Clarity Act, that, BlackRock came in with the ETF in 2024, that 2025, we did start to see institutions come in 2026. We're seeing basically almost every institution come in. It does seem like this is almost marking the end of the quote Bitcoin wild or crypto Wild West era. This is, almost, I want to say sorrow. I was trying to think of a better word, like a sorrowful way of just like, wow, we're maturing as an industry for better or worse. I think you can still does Binance have 100x? I don't think they have 100x. I think they have 50x, I believe. And the US platform, I think, only goes up to like 10x. But this does kind of mark the end of the degenerate Wild West era of the crypto industry. And I'm not calling Bitmex, a degenerate platform. That's just more of a loving term for the crypto traders out there. But man, 11 years. I mean, what would that be? 2015? Came out 2015. I got in the space end of 2017. It's like, wow, man, time flies. Bitmex is finally going down. I honestly was more surprised about the Bitmex story this morning than anything else that I've read this about the news. But I don't think everyone's familiar with Bitmex. I think in recent years, Bitmex kind of, I would say fell to the wayside. It's kind of like a background thing. It's really almost like a legacy platform for a lot of the OG Bitcoin degenerates out there. But it's crazy that it's going down, or rather that they shut down. It's obviously not going down. But wait, another silver lining. Was Bitmex the final sacrifice? Dude, we're seeing a lot of, I don't know. Bitmex the final sacrifice for this bear market? Will Bitmex mark the absolute bottom of the 2026 bear market? That's crazy. We're seeing Bitcoin treasuries capitulate, which I have more news on later on in the show. We see Bitmex go down, which is kind of something you didn't expect for a long time. Obviously, it's not the same Bitmex that I probably grew up with. You know, Arthur Hayes has been out of Bitmex for a while. He had to pay some fines for the AML KYC infractions, and it has changed over the years, and maybe you could characterize it as limping along for a while. But I really did not see this one coming. 11 years, Bitmex rolls it up. I saw someone ask the question, will Bitmex research also end? Because Bitmex research, I think, is one of those Twitter accounts that if you're interested in a lot of the more technical conversations around Bitcoin, one of those Twitter accounts that you absolutely have to follow. They've done a lot of great research. So I'm still wondering if that's going to also end. I think that would be a detriment for every single one of us. That's a great educational source. But yeah, Bitmex is down after 11 years. I would ask the chat who traded on Bitmex, but we're not going to dox. I don't want you guys to self-dox like that, okay? But if you know, Bitmex, dude, it's the end of an era. Wild West is over. Wild West in Bitcoin is over. And further, is this the final sacrifice? We're all just looking for, dude, we're all like the scene in Apocalypto. We're just waiting for the heads to roll off the pyramid. Is this the final capitulation? Who's next? I don't know, man. Dude, who could be next? I can't think of anyone else. Like this one, I'm more surprised at Bitmex going down. Well, it didn't go down. I'm sorry. Bitmex closing the doors. It's probably the best way to put this. But yeah, this one is Bitcoin demands more blood, dude. How much more? How much more? Dude, how much more do we need? But yeah, no, I mean, crazy news. Anyways, let's keep it moving, and we will talk about big Bitcoin funding Bitcoin development. All right, I'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. Ledin fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash. And they just introduced their lowest rates ever. No complexity, no fine print. The larger the loan, the lower the rate. These new rates apply to all new loans, refinances, and renewals. You'll see all the rates up front before you apply. The new, lower rates come with Ledin's gold standard protection. Your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. Perfect 8-year track record of keeping clients' assets safe. Auto top-ups, LTV alerts, and partial repayments to keep you in control. Repay whenever you want with zero penalties or monthly payments. Ledin's perfect $10 billion track record through every market cycle in the last 8 years speaks for itself. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Get both at Ledin. If you ever thought, what happens to my Bitcoin if something happens to me? Or what happens if I lose my phone? You're not alone. For a lot of people, the biggest barrier to self-custody isn't buying Bitcoin. It's the fear of making a mistake. And that's why I like Bitkey, and I recommend it to my friends and family. Bitkey is a Bitcoin wallet built for real life. Not just for day one, but for everything that happens in between. Lost devices, upgrades, accidents, and long-term ownership. There's no seed phrase to write down and worry about losing. And no single point of failure that can lock you out of your Bitcoin forever. What really stands out about Bitkey is the peace of mind. Recovery is built in. Inheritance is built in. It's a complete self-custody system built by the team behind Square and Cash App, designed to make holding your own Bitcoin simpler and safer. Take self-custody of your Bitcoin today using Bitkey. Go to bitkey.world and use promo code SIMPLY for 10% off your new Bitkey. That's bitkey.world, promo code SIMPLY.
Okay, guys, before I get into the news here, I do want to comment on this. Brandon Clark, Stocks Passports, goes, Wild West era is still here, brother. And then my response was, yeah, I think you're right. But it does feel like that part of the cowboy movie, you know, where the new sheriff comes into town and he's trying to clear house and clean up because of the bandits that are overtaking the town. I think that's where we are in the movie, right? I mean, it's probably a bad analogy, and I'm just being like a boomer here, but that's kind of where I'm seeing here. Yes, I agree. I don't think the Wild West era of Bitcoin is particularly over, and maybe part of that is this idea that we can maintain, that rough and rugged cowboy aesthetic moving through the cypherpunk ethos of Bitcoin as we all kind of mature and we do start to enter the fabric of the traditional financial system. But to me, if I'm going to keep this analogy running, it does feel like there's a new sheriff here and he's going to clean up all the undesirables at the local saloon. That's dude, Bitmex, the local saloon. Actually, guys, who are the real banditos and who's the deputy? I don't know, man. But another thing I forgot to say. If you guys have been around for a while, this is for the guys that have been here for a long time. Remember the Bitmex troll box? First of all, called the troll box. And everyone would just sit there and just watch people get absolutely liquidated. Dude, what a wild time. Rip, dude. End of an era, really. Anyways, let's get into this news here. So, big news. I think the news in itself is probably not that big of a news story. I think this news in the context of what we're seeing right now with the whole BIP 110 debate, that's probably in the context of all of this, I think that's probably why this is even making a lot of noise. Anyways, what am I talking about? So Strategy this morning tweeted, today we're announcing the Bitcoin Security Consortium, a group of leading financial institutions and Bitcoin companies supporting the long-term security of the Bitcoin network. Members have pledged $15 million towards this work over the next 3 years. You can see the founding members are Anchorage, ARK Invest, BlackRock, Blocks, Blockstream, Coinbase, Digital Asset, Galaxy, and Strategy. Holders, custodians, exchanges, asset managers, and builders united by a shared interest in Bitcoin's continued security. Going further, the Bitcoin Security Consortium has two primary goals. One, fund and support the developers and researchers already securing Bitcoin. And two, inform the broader conversation about Bitcoin security so it reflects the actual state of the work. Quote from Fong Li, CEO of Strategy, as long-term holders, we have every incentive to see Bitcoin remain secure for generations. Funding the people who do this work and helping inform the conversation around it is a natural way for us to contribute, which is something that Strategy said they wanted to do. I forget how long ago. I think at least over a year ago that they wanted to fund Bitcoin development. Obviously, they're not the only, or this isn't the only kind of attempt at doing this. There is OpenSats. There's obviously been a lot of grants that have been given from, say, like the Human Rights Foundation to Bitcoin developers. So, working on Bitcoin is a very unglorious job. One, everyone yells at you and thinks you're an idiot and thinks you made a mistake. But two, there's not that much money in open source development. That's just kind of how open source development works. It's really like, hey, if you're interested in something, go do it. If you're good at it, go do it. But there really isn't that much money. So on just like the surface level of this, I'm totally backing the idea of like, let's pay the developers. Because look, you gotta kind of understand this in the context of, if you are a developer, you could probably make a lot more money if you're working for, say, I don't know, Google, Palantir, like there's a lot more money to be had if you work on some other project, AI, work at SpaceX, Tesla. Like if you're a smart coder, you can make a lot more money not working on Bitcoin. And so these incentives are like this incentive structure is very important to make sure that the people that are working on Bitcoin are the most talented, the most qualified. Like, look, guys, I know we all have ideological views on stuff, but like, if you don't get paid, you can't survive. Like, there does need to be a certain incentive structure to attract the best talent. And look, I don't make the rules. I'm just here to report them. If you're really good, you go where the money is. And there's not that much money in developing on Bitcoin. It's just kind of what it is. Anyways, going further. The Bitcoin Security Consortium's first focus is quantum computing. Large-scale quantum computers capable of threatening Bitcoin's cryptography don't exist today, and credible estimates place them years away. But preparing is a meaningful long-term priority and one the community is already working on. Now, this is, I think, very interesting just from the idea of if you've been following the conversation around quantum, which we've done some shows on, and there has been a lot of concerns about quantum computing, and there's been, Google breakthroughs that, quantum computing, it's here. Like we're theoretically now capable of making the quantum computer, but new breakthrough here. And then you look at the like Google chips that are doing it, and it's like it doesn't even come close to being able to crack a Bitcoin private key. Though the headlines would make you believe it's like, oh, dude, Google can crack private keys now. Like Google can crack Bitcoin. So, and then also someone that I do actually respect, I would say like TA or at least analysis, Charles Edward. He's been propagating this idea that the reason Bitcoin, I think I'm lagging. Hopefully. Oh, hold on. My computer's dying. No. Okay. Sorry, guys. I think my computer's about to die. It wasn't charging. So give me it. I'm back. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. My charger wasn't charging and my computer's at like 5%. Sheesh. There's been a conversation saying that the reason Bitcoin is crashing is because of quantum concerns, that a lot of institutions aren't comfortable putting money into Bitcoin because of the quantum computing threat. So I think it is interesting that this is the first thing that this Bitcoin consortium is going to focus on. All right, going further on this announcement, Bitcoin security is the work of a global independent community of developers and researchers. Their work is excellent, but it often doesn't reach the institutions, investors, and public who increasingly want to understand it. The Bitcoin Security Consortium hopes to help close that gap. We support the people already building Bitcoin. We don't direct its development, and we don't speak for Bitcoin. I think that's pretty key here. Each member funds and speaks independently. Bitcoin's direction belongs to the community. We are here to support it. Quote from Robert Mitchnick, of global head of digital assets at BlackRock, says, Bitcoin core developers do incredibly important work, and we're pleased that our firm and the others in this group will now be making significant additional funding available to support Bitcoin's long-term security needs. Day-to-day work is coordinated by Mike Schmidt, executive director of Brink, a nonprofit that supports Bitcoin open source developers. Mike serves as a volunteer independent of any member organization, and Bitcoin has proven remarkably resilient through the work of an open global community. We're proud to help strengthen it for the long term. I didn't see this Luke comment here. The community has said no to core and yes to BIP 110. All right, Luke. At least you're consistent. Love it. So obviously, and I'm actually glad that Luke comment was there at the bottom. I didn't plan that, but I think that is probably where the most, I don't want to say hypocrisy. How do I frame this? The most contention will come out of this is because, like, look, in a vacuum, obviously funding Bitcoin developers, I think at a different time, even though like BlackRock is involved here, like, you know, that obviously makes us all feel a little weird. It's like, you know, shouts out to the Bugle guys, the big Bitcoin, you know, big Bitcoin's coming in. They're going to fund the developers. And part of that is them going to basically direct what will be developed, you know, since they have the power to either issue or not issue money to certain developers, and they might pick and choose which developers they want working on something. Obviously, that is just a very clear concern out the gate. But from what this press release is saying and from all of the kind of feedback that I'm seeing, and I'll read you a couple more tweets, it doesn't seem like they are, or rather, I'll say it this way. If they do not pick and choose, you know, what, or rather have any say in what these developers are doing, then I would say this is probably a good thing. Obviously, that is still yet to be seen, and that is a very real concern for everyone. It is kind of interesting. And again, shout out the Bugle. The big Bitcoin meme is like, it's such a good meme. You know, big Bitcoin's here. The suit coiners are here to destroy Bitcoin. The BIP 110 plebs are here to protect Bitcoin as money. I kind of like it. I'm having a good time on Twitter right now. Shouts out to the Bugle. I like it. It is a good characterization of saying big Bitcoin. Big Bitcoin's here to pay Bitcoin developers. I mean, look at the companies here, like BlackRock. I think BlackRock's probably the one that makes everyone feel weird. And then, you know, if you're a Bitcoiner, Blockstream being a part of it, Coinbase being a part of it, Strategy, you know, like, the corporations. Oh man, I don't like the greedy corporations. But again, I think in the context of what we're seeing with the BIP 110 stuff, I did see Mechanic say something like, what was it? URSF, by the plebs, like, nah, but corporations paying Bitcoin developers, yay. So like you're already seeing this play out, that there is a lot of, I would say, like knee-jerk reactions to this. And look, I'm making my views on this as well, but I try to be as objective as possible. I would say that funding Bitcoin developers is a good thing, obviously, because it is coming from big Bitcoin. You do have to hesitate a little bit, but the more I looked into this, and at least from what I'm seeing from the people that are actually going to be a part of this, and this is where I'll read, I don't know if it's as nefarious as it's being made out to be. So Steve Lee, which I respect, he's you know, I would say way smarter than I am. He's actually working, like he's a developer actually doing work, where I just talk, you know, I just talk shit. It's just what I do. I'm a talking head. I just try to keep you entertained throughout this whole process. He goes, I'm representing Block and Spiral in this initiative. This initiative will communicate a balanced and accurate view of challenges to Bitcoin security, specifically quantum computing fears, the work being done by many different organizations and independent developers, and to reassure people there are credible plans. Often, this can be done by simply endorsing existing projects that are already doing this, okay? So again, from that read, doesn't seem like they're picking and choosing winners and losers. So I'll hold my opinions until we start to see what they're actually funding with that $15 million. Obviously, seems like their first initiative is going to be quantum computing. Now, here's Mike Schmidt, who works at Brink, and he's going to be leading this initiative. He goes, today, 9 institutions, including BlackRock, Fidelity, Coinbase, and Strategy, announced the Bitcoin Security Consortium, pledging $15 million towards Bitcoin security work over the next 3 years. I've agreed to help coordinate the group's work as a volunteer. I said yes because supporting Bitcoin's developers and helping people understand their work are the two things I've spent my time in Bitcoin on through Brink and Optech. This group wants to do both. Fund the people already securing Bitcoin and bring accurate information about that work to audience it doesn't currently reach. The group's, again, first focus is quantum. It's true that a sufficiently powerful quantum computer could break Bitcoin's current signatures. What's usually wrong are the loudest, eminent doom voices. The development community is already working on this. These institutions want to help. I know exactly how, quote, 9 giant institutions form a group to help Bitcoin sounds. I had the same reaction. So before accepting, I spoke one-on-one with each company about their values and priorities. to judge whether they would actually be a productive initiative for Bitcoin. Two things mattered most to me, and I found the members already aligned on both. One, no pooled funding. Each member company funds who they choose independently. The consortium doesn't hold funds or pick recipients. Pretty big. And two, no consortium positions on protocol changes. Members speak for themselves. That one's huge. Anyways, I'm a volunteer receiving no compensation from the consortium. I continue to run Brink, independent of any consortium members. I've committed to a year in this role. Maybe I do too, but ultimately I see it as a seat that should rotate to other participants over time. My commitment is to Bitcoin, and that doesn't change. My hope is that this effort results in more funding, reaching more developers and researchers on their own terms, and a measured counterweight to quantum panic in both directions. No doomerism, but also no dismissal. Quantum is the first focus, but if this group works the way I think it can, there's room to support other security efforts down the road too. I expect plenty of skepticisms. Ask me anything. So, again, as someone, I would say that, like, I'm not actually media trained. I just put in the reps, but I think that's a good place to start from. I would say a good faith effort to start this initiative, being like, hey, look, I get how it sounds. Obviously, we do have to kind of trust him, bro, because we weren't in the rooms. We don't hear any recordings on it. But from what I'm seeing, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of with this. Fund Bitcoin developers. If they don't get if the people with the money don't really have a say on what the developers are doing or what initiatives are going, I'm like, check, that's good. Two, no protocol changes. I think that's the biggest consensus from what I can take away from the, core BIP 110 conversation is the idea of consensus and breaking consensus and having consensus to a soft fork. So for that does, I don't want to say maybe lull me to sleep, but it does make me feel a little better about this personally. I had one more thing I wanted to say. Anyways, I guess it wasn't that important. Either way, pretty big news. Sailor and Strategy have been saying this for a while, that this is what they wanted to do. Finally, I guess you could say they put their money where their mouth is. But interesting stuff happening today. It's one of these days where, like, there is a lot of different news stories that are happening. Some days is a lot slower than others. I would say today there's pretty big news stories. I'm sure some of you guys would, you're going to go, oh, big Bitcoin's here to co-op Bitcoin. I totally see that angle. But I'm also of the opinion that, like, Bitcoin developers should get paid more. I want them to get paid more. And I'm not just saying, like, Bitcoin core developers. Anyone that is putting the time and effort to try to, one, maintain Bitcoin security, and two, improve Bitcoin usability, whether that's just wallets or, layer twos, et cetera, et cetera. I think they should be paid more. I like the kind of idea that the world that we live in, the highest paying jobs right now are off Wall Street. The smartest, brightest people go to Wall Street because that's where you can make a lot of money. I would like to see, and maybe this is my utopian view of it, but I would like to see that the people that are working on Bitcoin are some of the highest jobs, or rather the highest paid jobs. To me, Bitcoin's the most important thing that there is. It's the most important invention of this time. I would say maybe above AI, but depending on your view, maybe they're 1 and 2, or maybe they're tied for number 1. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot of backlash on Twitter about this thing. Corporations are trying to take over Bitcoin. I remember what I wanted to say. It does kind of lead, like, the most skeptical view of this that I am thinking, it does kind of go down the path of, we might be seeing ossification happen in real time. Like this I'm not going to say it guarantees that there won't be any more changes to Bitcoin moving forward, but this does lead me down the idea that we might be seeing, Like, this might be the best that Bitcoin it will ever be, especially when you consider, and again, they did say they're not going to necessarily, how did Fong Lee put it, necessarily, direct the development of Bitcoin. They're not going to really pick winners and losers here. But with the context of what we saw Saylor say the other day in terms of the BIP 110 kind of argument, Strategy and Saylor are definitely of the opinion that like the base layer shouldn't change that much. So guys, this might be the the final nail in the coffin of Bitcoin ossification. I hope not. Obviously, the initial move is for quantum computing, so that inherently means that Bitcoin will have to upgrade to protect itself from quantum computing if something does come out of this. But that's probably where my skepticism goes. It's like, wow, are we just seeing ossification happen in real time? So it's not all good. It's not all bad. But these developers need to come together and do what's best for the network, full stop. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot easier said than done. Every developer that works on Bitcoin doesn't necessarily agree on, quote, what is best for Bitcoin. I mean, like, again, I'd agree with that statement, but what's the best for Bitcoin is subjective at the very end of the day. I know where you're going, like, keep Bitcoin decentralized and, fight spam and make sure that people can run nodes and decentralize mining, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a lot of Bitcoin developers, and not just on Core or on the BIP side. I'm not, pointing at anyone in particular. I do have a particular person in mind, but I'm not going to say it because I think he's smarter than I am in terms of code and developing Bitcoin. But there are a lot of Bitcoin developers that I don't necessarily agree with what they do or what their intended goals are, but I think they've done a lot of good work. So again, I think what's best for Bitcoin is subjective. Everything's subjective. I know we all want black and white. Yeah, agreed. It's definitely not easy, but yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a good thing. I come from such an era in Bitcoin where when we used to say, oh no, but this is a net positive, that we would go and be like, dude, like, why net positive? It's not that hard to just be wholly positive. But again, maybe I'm maturing now. Like, I think I'm a net positive person. I can't say 100% guaranteed that in the grand scheme of things, everything I've done and every choice I've made in my life is a positive. So I do give a little bit of the benefit of the doubt and a little bit of leeway that, hey, sometimes you don't make the best decisions. So I hate using net positive because it triggers something in my mind of like, it's not that hard to just be wholly positive for Bitcoin. I mean, I hope I'm wholly positive for Bitcoin, but I might argue that I'm not even a net positive for Bitcoin. Okay, so I just hope I'm not a negative towards Bitcoin. I hope I have some positive impact on you guys and whoever watches this. That I am a force for good. At least I try to be a force for good, but I just hope I'm not a net negative, I guess. I know I'm not a wholly positive force for Bitcoin, but net positive, I mean, I hope so. All I'm saying is I think this is a net positive for Bitcoin. I think, again, repeating myself, but I think Bitcoin developers should be paid more. And I'm I don't have 15 mil to pay Bitcoin developers, so I'm okay with people with the money paying. I'm okay with the rich guys paying the developers. Like, yo, I like the idea of rich patrons funding Michelangelo. Like, I'm okay with this. All right, I think we need more rich patrons paying people to do cool shit. Hey, if there's a rich patron out there that wants to pay us to do more cool shit, I'm totally okay. I'm totally okay with that. Hey, DMs are open. Actually, I don't think they are. I don't think my DMs are open. Anyways, all right. I'm trolling. We do a little trolling, okay? Hey, I'm only partially serious here. All right. Bring back meme review would be a net positive. Would it though? Would it though? That's debatable. All right, guys, I'm gonna keep it moving. We're gonna wrap up the show with. I think we got another bottom, dude. The Bitcoin treasury companies, they're selling more Bitcoin. Bottom confirmed? Question mark? I don't know. I'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy across 3 continents, HIVE runs dual engines, Bitcoin mining and AI compute. Their AI platform is ranked #1 in the world for network performance, and it's doing something bigger than compute. It's accelerating human discovery, the science, the breakthroughs, pushing humanity further and faster. Listed on the NASDAQ with the ticker HIVE. Catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech on X or hivedigitaltech.com.
You secured your Bitcoin, but did you secure your devices too? They're still broadcasting your location and digital footprint. GPS, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cell, 5G, EMF, all of it is leaking. Escape Zone fixes that. Their Faraday bags block every signal your device emits, so you decide when you're detectable, not the grid. Built for Bitcoiners who know sovereignty isn't just your wallet. It's your phone, your hardware wallet, your keys, and your entire digital life. Go to escapezone.com/simply and use code SIMPLY for 10% off. That's escapezone.com/simply, code SIMPLY. All righty then, guys. Sorry. Just drinking a little water. Mouth was a little parched. We've been covering the saga of Bitcoin treasury companies, and it's something we've been saying for months that the more selling we see from Bitcoin treasury companies, one, obviously puts in question the just fundamental need for Bitcoin treasury companies. Now, obviously, there's people on both sides that Bitcoin treasuries are going to be a thing. And further, like, pure play Bitcoin companies are going to be a thing. And maybe there's just not going to be that many pure play Bitcoin companies, but there is a market fit. And then everyone else that are like, why would I give you my Bitcoin for your ticker? You like Bitcoin, buy my shitcoin. I've heard this before. Anyways, the second point is that once we start seeing a lot of Bitcoin treasury companies start to capitulate and sell some Bitcoin, that might mark the bottom of Bitcoin and might be the cleansing we need to finally clear the way for the bull run. Well, we've had a lot, like we literally did the whole show. We've done multiple shows on Bitcoin treasuries this week. We saw Sailor sell some Bitcoin. Well, we just saw the biggest UK-based Bitcoin treasury sell some more Bitcoin. Yesterday, we saw the second biggest literally close up shop. Guys, I think it's happening. All right. Anyways, shout out to BitcoinTreasuries.net and go just in. The Smarter Web Company, aka $SWC, has sold 177.89 Bitcoin to repay $11.69 million to TUBAM for its previously subscribed Smarter Convert instrument, and now holds a total of 2,700 Bitcoin. Their new Bitcoin 100 ranking is 28. So the kind of breakdown of this, at least kind of my take of what we're seeing, it's not a full-blown fire sale capitulation like we saw yesterday of Samsara, the second biggest UK-based Bitcoin treasury company. It does kind of lean into more of what we saw Sailor do a few months ago, where they sell some Bitcoin to pay back their convertibles, but since they didn't have a huge cash reserve like Sailor did, that's really like where the whole what's a whole par breakdown from $100 on Stretch was really all about. That strategy paid back some convertible debt with their cash on hand, spooked the market. They had, what most people are kind of calling the D-peg from 100, even though it's not really a peg. It dropped to low 70s. It's still recovering. Now, since that time, strategy has basically rebuilt that 2 years of USD reserves. And also in the meantime, kind of diluted the MSTR common stockholder. Well, Smarter Web chose not to dilute their SWC holders and instead decided to sell some Bitcoin. So again, they sold 177 Bitcoin for, 11.7 million as this to repay their convertibles, and it cancels a potential issuance of 7.7 million shares. Said CEO Andrew Webley said convertibles are no longer the right capital solution for the firm. I think that's very interesting. But it sounds like two things are probably going on. One, obviously they don't want to dilute their shareholders, which they're watching Sailor or Strategy. They're probably watching Strategy and the backlash they've been getting the last couple of weeks, because they have in fact been diluting MSTR shareholders to stack dollars. And maybe Smarter Web, either one, just didn't want to get into that. They didn't want to step into the arena, step into the fire there. But two, I think that last sentence is probably the most interesting part of this. Again, CEO Andrew Webley said convertibles are no longer the right capital solution for the firm. Sounds like they're probably not going to do more. It could be a soft capitulation on the Bitcoin treasury, kind of pure Bitcoin play, issue debt, pay it back, stack Bitcoin throughout the process. Maybe this is them kind of admitting that might not be a viable solution, period. But further, at least for them, as of now, it doesn't seem to be the move they want to go. But it is interesting that yesterday we saw the second biggest UK-based Bitcoin treasury company close doors. Today, we're seeing the largest UK-based Bitcoin treasury company sell some Bitcoin. A lot of selling has come from Bitcoin treasury companies. It's going to be very interesting moving forward just to see how Bitcoin treasury companies evolve from this point. Again, there's been a very strong trend recently from Bitcoin treasury companies basically admitting that, hey, you need cash flow. You need to have a proper business underlying your Bitcoin treasury. You need to have profits coming in for the Bitcoin treasury company play to make sense. So again, we are in this phase of the evolution of Bitcoin treasury companies. But with all that being said, we did say for a while that once we start seeing a lot of Bitcoin treasury companies sell, it's probably going to mark the bottom of the bear market. Bottom's in, boys. Bottom's in. For the last point, bottom is in, all right? Bottom is in. I hope you stacked under 60K. I'm not going to say the line, but you know what I was going to say. So yeah, I'm convinced. Obviously, I reserve the right to be wrong and change my opinions here. The bottom's in. Only up from here, all right? It is only up from here. Bitcoin companies aren't competing with each other. Yeah, right. Full stop. Bitcoin treasury companies are competing for investment dollars. Sailor just wrong or lie. Hey, yo, down under blues. Yo, choosing violence this morning. Let me see. What's going on, Past or not? No, Clarity Act still stalled. Clarity Act would definitely pass in the next few weeks. Bet on it. We do not endorse prediction markets. Just buy Bitcoin. If you want to bet on the Clarity Act passing, just buy Bitcoin. Because hey, even if it fails, just buy Bitcoin. You know, that's like the secret of Bitcoin. Life's going good. As long as you got a little extra cash, buy some Bitcoin. Life's going good because you have a lot of extra cash, buy some Bitcoin. You know, your girlfriend dumps you, buy some Bitcoin. You just got an even better, hotter girlfriend, buy some Bitcoin. Hey, you feel sad? Buy some Bitcoin. Hey, you feel extremely happy today? Buy some Bitcoin. The solution is to always buy some Bitcoin. Unless, of course, like you're broke, can't pay your bills. Do not, I repeat, do not buy Bitcoin if you can't pay your bills or buy groceries. What's it? Maslow's hierarchy of needs here. Bills, surviving, Bitcoin, and then whatever the hell whatever else you want to do. All right. I'll leave that up to you. Anyways, what horns for what? What's my missed opportunity? 42,380, dude. You're lost in the sauce, bro. Not gonna happen. All right, guys. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Actually, before I go, dude, how's the yellow shirt? I'm colorblind here, so does it stick out? I feel like I'm kind of blending in. I can't really wear light colors in this seat here because of the background. I always feel like there's no contrast between my shirt and the background, and it looks like two-dimensional. But can I get away with the yellow? I don't know. I'm kind of vibing with the yellow today. I just get paying some bills for Bitcoin. Hey. We promote financial responsibility here, Down Under Blues. It's financial entertainment. It's not financial advice. Okay. Anyways. I hope you guys had a good day. I had some fun on this show today. It's actually been a little funner recently. I don't know if you guys are feeling that. Dude, last anecdote before I sign off. You know what's super funny? And I was actually talking to Sal, the official Simply Bitcoin trainer. Hey, if you're trying to get some gains, bro, if you're not disciplined enough, I don't remember at me on Twitter. If you like, he doesn't pay me to do this, but like, I'm gonna help my boy out here. For you guys that hang out with us here, we're midway through the year. And Nico wouldn't even, he'd probably get mad at me even though Sal's one of her friends, but I'm gonna do it anyways. If you need a little help in the gym, you're not disciplined, you don't know what to do, you got to go hit up my boy Sal. I forget what his Twitter is, but just tag, at me on Twitter. Just go at Optimus Fields. I'm interested. I need a little help. I'm tired of being fat. I'm tired of being lazy. I need a military sergeant I need David Goggins to whip me into shape. I highly endorse my boy Sal. But anyways, I was talking to Sal and we were joking, and we were like, man, isn't it so interesting that our lives and our mental health is just it's literally the Bitcoin price, at the bottom of the bear market, it get your life. If I don't know what it is. And I'm not even saying my entire personality is wrapped around the Bitcoin price, but I've noticed in the 9 years that I've been Bitcoin, every time, the price goes down, life does get hard, it just things happen in life where you're just man, dude, shit's tough right now. I just got to white knuckle through it. And when it goes up, you're man, you're walking on sunshine. Well, in the last couple of weeks, the price is it's got some life back into it. We're starting to see more views back on the channel. More people are interested in Bitcoin. I'm having more fun on the show. I'm being abandoned here. Nico's never here. And I'm man, I got to talk for an hour and a half solo. This is crazy. But I'm actually enjoying it. I'm having a good time. We're getting some news back in the cycle, man. It really does feel like the bear market, the bottom is behind us, but what do I know, man? Looks white to me. It's yellow. It's It's like a pale yellow. Maybe you're colorblind, bro. I think the yellow brings out your eyes. Hey, yo, stop hitting on me, bro. Oh, when I called the bottom. Okay. Anyways, the shirt fits you and hope it's a noble material or blend. It is linen, 100% linen. I'm a linen maxi. I love linen. But yeah, all right, I can wear yellow. I can wear yellow on the show. Sometimes I can't wear white. That's why I'm literally been in the same like black shirt. I need to, it doesn't stink, but I need to do, I've been wearing the same exact black shirt on this show for like the past 2 weeks. And I feel it looks best when I'm in black here, but like, I don't know, just feeling the yellow today. You know, we're doing fit checks on the show today. Mog check. Anyways, I love you guys. Pello, yeah, it's a pale yellow. What about the other Simply dudes? No appearances on this show. You know, occasionally they do, but everyone's kind of so locked in on their schedule that it does, like it kind of asks a lot of them to, you know, write a show and then come on the live show. Like they're usually recording and doing their work while I'm on the live show. So we'll see, you know, maybe we will be able to have some other friends from the channel on the live show. Look, without giving away too much, in the next month or two, we are going to be making, I wouldn't say any drastic changes here, but we are going to be, we're going to try to figure out how to spice this up a little bit, at least the live show. I want to make this as entertaining and as fun as possible. Where we got a lot of ideas and a lot of things that we're kind of, you know, pitching and working on. And I gotta make sure that our production and our show is the best. Like there's a lot of moving parts in our team and behind the scenes. I'm sure you're kind of following along on some of those. And I want to make sure that our show's the best. So like, there will be some slight changes on the live show. So part of that, I'll see if I can get some of our other content creators from our channel on this channel. Trust me, I want to make this show like the best. My goal has always been, I want to make this show like as good as any other show that you've ever seen and that you enjoy, from, you know, like the Pat McAfee show to things you've seen on, you know, the corporate press, like television stuff, like, you know, even the GOAT, Alex Jones type. Like I want this show to be like just so fucking awesome. But dude, I've been just trying to survive for a little bit. You know, I'm just trying to make it through the week, guys. But hey, we're percolating. I'm trying to figure out how to make this happen. All right. So if you know anything about me in real life, I am kind of a procrastinator, but I'm coming close to the wall here. So trust me, I'll figure it out. I'm going to make some things happen here pretty soon. All right. So I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Dude, why doesn't she just had a newborn, bro. Like she's in mom mode. She's got to take care of the fort, fam. Anyways, appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow for the last show of the week for Simply Bitcoin Live. You know, eat some good food, call your loved ones, get a workout in, get your 10K steps in, get some sun on your face, stack some Bitcoin, take it into cold storage, unplug. For God's sake, unplug. All right. Do not argue with the bot. Unplug. Hey, you see me? Yeah, I'm talking to you. Stop flirting with AI. It is making you delusional. Hey, yo, your e-girl anime girlfriend is not real. All right, I'm done. All right, guys, I love you. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day. Peace out.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.